My name's Shivani Huja. I'm going to say a couple words. I'll share a few slides now that they're working. Excellent. And then I'd love to introduce a friend of mine, Samir, but I'd like to make fun of him before we start. The last time he and I were on stage together, I was in 4-inch stilettos and like an evening gown, and he was dressed like a scrub. So he's giving me a hard time that I dressed for my audience. I came prepared. I've worn my big data energy hat. Next time, Samir, know your audience, okay? So I'm Shivani Huja. I have been at Salesforce for 1 year. November 18th marked my 1-year anniversary. Before being at Salesforce, I was sitting in your seat. So I worked at TD Bank. It's one of the largest banks in Canada. I headed up their digital banking for a little while, and I ran a number of their technologies across the globe. And how I ended up in the role that I'm in is Salesforce loves to tell customer success stories. So they invited me to an internal conference of just their employees in a room for about 450 people. Mark Benioff was sitting where you are, and they're asking me about the personalization at scale and all these things that we did. At the end, he asked me one question. What advice, Mark Benioff is sitting right here, what advice do you have for the company? And I let it rip. Like, I made it stand-up comedy. I was on a roll that I couldn't even stop making fun of the company. And I would say things like, it's ironic that you're helping me put my customer at the center, yet when I show up for a meeting with you, 22 of you show up. And I just went on and on and on. Next thing you know, I'm sure I'm going to get kicked out. And the next thing you know, as I'm walking out, someone says, watch out, they're coming for you. And so now I am on the Salesforce side, and I have one of the coolest jobs where I'm helping the company build out our go-to-market strategy for how we engage CIOs in the office of the CIO and CEOs and CFOs and COOs, so all the C-suite. What that translates into is I actually get to just travel the world, and I meet with enterprise CIOs of all industries, all shapes and sizes. I just got my latest count. I've hit now 520 CIOs in the course of a year. And these are meaningful engagements. Why I share this is because it comes into a couple of the trends and patterns that I've observed as it relates to this little thing called AI over the course of the year. Before I get into sharing any of those, I've been obligated by my legal team to share a love letter with you. So this is the love letter from my legal team to say, please make any purchasing decisions that you are going to make on generally available products today, not of anything that you might see that's future looking. So 520 CIOs, I've gone through and seen a lot of trends. One of which is the fact that AI has become the smallest, biggest word. It's become the fastest growing thing that everyone needs to implement. They have to rush to get something into production. And CIOs are in a hot seat right now where, unlike cloud or mobile or internet, where they were squarely in the driver's seat and they were doing it, like implementing it on behalf of their organizations, suddenly everyone with ChatGPT has become an expert at AI. Boards are putting pressure. CEOs are putting pressure. Everyone is putting all this pressure on CIOs to get something implemented. And what's happened is in the early stages of the year, CIOs were Salesforce as an organization would come in, and you would see these CIOs would say, no, I'm a build shop. I'm going to build my own. And why I say AI is the smallest, biggest word is because I was starting to learn the differences between predictive versus generative versus agentic architecture. But these CIOs would just say, no, I'm going to build my own. And it would surprise me to say, like, you really want to build the component parts for agentic architecture? And do you actually fundamentally understand what agentic AI is, what the difference is between a co-pilot or generative and agentic? And so it was adamantly this conversation, it's build versus buy. I'm going to DIY. I think as CIOs started to, and tech leaders started to understand, no, there is actually a fundamental difference between generative and agentic, then the conversation shifted again. And the conversation started to shift a bit more to, well, maybe not build versus buy, but I'm going to start to look at maybe platforms like a SaaS platform that's going to allow me to move with speed. And they're going to have templates, and I can do it really quickly. And a lot of my customer data is already within Salesforce, so let me leverage that because it seems to be a good, smart place to be. There would be others that would have a different approach, and they might say, well, no, I'm not going to look at Salesforce for AI. They're my CRM company. There's others that would say, I'm going to go to the Amazons of the world. I'm going to go to AWS. I want a cloud service provider. They're going to give me infinite scale and uptime, and I'm going to have governance and protection and security. I'm going to be able to build my own customized agents. And it was, again, I saw the debate shifting from DIY to not to build versus buy to now this one to say, no, I'm going to do a SaaS provider and I'm going to do. There's a world where both exist, and that's what we're going to share about today. Is I think now the latest iteration, and it's about a month and a half that I've started to hear more and more of this, less to build or buy, less it's going to be a SaaS platform or I'm going to use a cloud service provider. Now it has shifted to native agentic integration. At TD, my MarTech stack alone was 90 technologies. I couldn't imagine ripping all of that out and starting fresh because I've got a 4-year-old at home, so I describe agentic architecture as like the steel or the metal in Wolverine's body. No one's going to architect that from scratch. That's pretty tough to do. And so now I'm hearing a lot of CIOs say, I need to look at the partners that I've already invested in, the technologies that I already have in my shop, and I'd like to start looking at who is doing the work for me to build these agentic native integrations such that we can move with speed. And that is the better together story, because I think that there has been, wait, Salesforce, don't you compete with AWS in certain spaces? But that's not the case. So I am so thrilled to introduce Samir from Capita, who, again, a friend of mine. Come on up. Come on, nice to see you again.
We are friends, see?
We are legitimately friends, so I can tease him. And Capita has become an agentic enterprise, where leveraging Salesforce and Amazon Bedrock, he is an example of how we have come together to really be able to drive agents at scale. And Samir, when we were prepping for this, one of the things that you had talked about was that you've got four use cases specifically that you're looking at that are linked to both Amazon Bedrock and Agentforce. Tell us a bit about those 4 use cases.
Yeah, first of all, absolutely thrilled to be back at re:Invent. I was at AWS until exactly this day a year ago.
Ooh.
So it's great to come back as a customer. You actually walk less, believe it or not, as a customer. So absolutely thrilled. And I've seen what Salesforce has done with AWS in the past from the inside, and now I see it from the outside as well. And so when I took on this new role to introduce agentic workflows into Capita, there was a lot of noise about which platform to use. Who do we engage with? Do we go with an SI? And there were these, and the fundamental thing that Jeff Bezos actually said was, in times of uncertainty, build on something that doesn't change. And I know what won't change. AWS will be here. Salesforce will be here.
Yeah.
And so when I looked at what we needed to build across the multiple use cases we have, and we run everything from Transport for London to training nuclear submarine operators. My biggest need was to democratize the ability to build agents across all of my organization. And so we looked at four different use cases to get started. The first one is we had, as Shibani mentioned, she said 90. I have a customer who's got 65 right now, different applications.
Yeah.
And you could either rip and replace, or you could go over the top with MuleSoft and create that cover, and then start building agents on top very, very easily. And that's one that we use all the time. And then for our contact center space, the integration with Amazon Connect, and that exposure into Agentforce. We're actually building agents, voice agents, in Agentforce today and deploying them at scale using both Amazon Connect, in Voice Cloud, and Salesforce. We're using Mission Force for our defense applications. We're building local government in a box. And all of these that used to take years and frankly tens of millions of pounds to build, we're now building in months and deploying at scale.
And you know, for the audience that may or may not be familiar with Capita, maybe give even like a brief overview of like what Capita is, what's the business that you're in?
So Capita is the largest UK-based public sector BPO, business process outsourcer. So if you really look at the kind of services we operate, we touch 70% of the UK's population every single week. From running civil service pensions, which we went live with 2 days ago, to Transport for London, which I mentioned, to doing recruitment for the British Army. And everywhere it is such a diverse use case that is very, very process heavy, and that's ripe for agentification. And that's why we're there, because human labor is going to go infinite. It is going to be scalable. It is going to be available 24/7, and that's the mission that we're after.
So Samir, here's another connect that we have, like BPO. I used to live in the Philippines and I was setting up a captive BPO. It is a human-intensive function or department. Like, how are you looking at, we've talked a lot about agents, human agents and digital labor coming together. Like, how are you looking at that strategy being a very like human-heavy organization? What's the strategy of bringing AI and your colleagues together?
In the immortal words of a guy called Phil, just do it. So there's a lot of FUD in the market about agentification, that it's going to take jobs, reduce labor. We saw exactly the opposite when we introduced agents to our customer advisors who actually run that contact center. If you've ever been on a contact center and you've been passed around department to department, we all have, right? For hours and hours, you're super frustrated. But guess who's more frustrated than you? It's actually the customer advisor on the other end, because he or she did not have the tools to actually resolve your problem. Once we gave our advisors those tools, they actually started pulling on us and giving us more use cases for agentification. And that started this virtuous cycle where when we started with 10 advisors, all 1,000+ advisors actually literally came to us and said, I want some of that. Because they do not want to be writing up transcripts. They do not want to be marking themselves. They don't want the supervisor looking over their shoulder. It's just a better life. They're more satisfied. They're happier. And that's translating into customer NPS improvements for our contact centers.
Yeah. On that, and the use cases that you've talked about, how are you measuring? So measurement, true measurement, was a hot topic. Last night I hosted a dinner with CIOs, and one of the hottest topics that came up was, yep, we're attributing a lot of benefits to AI, but tracing it back was very difficult because many organizations didn't have that baseline. How are you looking at the measurement of AI, and are you telling the story?
Yeah, so 3 different vectors, really. One, we run a lot of contracts that have KPIs. And when we don't execute to those KPIs, we incur penalties. But when we exceed those KPIs, we share in the profits with the customer. So actually looking at that KPI and saying, A, can we eliminate all of these penalties? We've eliminated double-digit million pounds of penalties in a contract.
Wow.
Just by identifying the bottleneck. And that drops straight to the bottom line. It's not new revenue, but it's even better because it's 100% margin, right? And we share that with the customer.
Yeah.
And then number 2, we are embedding AI into every single bid that we put out there. Every single one. And we are seeing a win rate increase because we are cheaper, we are faster, and we're more flexible in what we're providing to the customer. So that's number 2. And then number 3, just for us to become an agentic enterprise, we have democratized access to low-code development of agents across all of our customers, all of our employees, and we're actually measuring what agents they've built and what actions they're taking. And at this point, we are attributing a fiat currency to each one of them. But the customer and the employee NPS, is actually a good representation of how well they're actually adopting it and how happy they are with it, and it is going up.
So again, if I think about the trends and evolution that I've seen as it relates to AI, I love what you've just called out, is that not one of your measurements was how many FTEs are you reducing?
None at all.
Right, like this is again a healthy way of starting to think about those use cases and looking at the growth opportunities or the expansion opportunities. And actually, it was also for Capita, I think, that I was presenting and speaking on your behalf, saying that there was a contact center opportunity, that you had a use case where your contact center was open 9 to 5.
Correct.
And suddenly when you implemented Agentforce to help support the contact center agent such that the agent could handle the more like mundane tasks, suddenly your contact center from 9 to 5 became overnight. It was 24/7 because
exactly right.
There was transactions that could be performed, or there was cases that could be resolved by the agent. And that's again another way of looking at it, to say that's a reverse benefit to your colleagues, the change management around adoption.
Yeah, that's a great use case, and I'm going to go even further.
Yeah.
Historically, we used to have a customer advisor dedicated to an account because he or she needed to know everything about that account and how to operate within the constraints of that account. We are now able to time division multiplex these highly capable agents across multiple different accounts just by providing on-demand knowledge base and real-time assistance using, in this case, generative AI and transcription, not necessarily an agent.
Right.
And the next step is going to be give them agents to enable them to do first call resolution much better.
Wow, love it. Okay, so you have a unique position here in that you clearly know Salesforce, you've got Salesforce in your ecosystem, you're familiar with it, we get you on stage, you help tell the story. But being only a year away from AWS and working at Capita, in your words, what are the benefits of this better together story? Like, do it better than me on stage. tell the audience.
Look, I'm a geek, right? And this is the only suit
do
I
you
wear.
have the hat? I don't think so.
Yeah, okay. I would always love to go in and do assembly level code, right?
Yeah.
If given a choice.
Yeah.
But I don't want, I can't, right? So one of the things that Salesforce has brought is the elevation of enabling everyone in my org to basically go in and describe with natural language what they want to do for their customer and to test it out with their customer without my involvement. Right. Or any of my team's involvement, teams sitting over there, but they're enabling teams now. They don't necessarily have to build for the customer anymore. All they do is advise and guide. Yeah, they are the Yodas.
Yeah.
Right?
I love it.
Right, so we have a bunch of Yodas, but we have a lot of Jedi Knights now, is the way I'd look at it.
Amazing.
And every single one of my employees, Capita's employees, is a Padawan. Hopefully will become a Jedi Knight in the future. I am, absolutely. Hey, it comes out.
But I think from a partnership perspective, the fact that you can now purchase Salesforce on the AWS marketplace or
Absolutely.
The model optionality. I think, again, as a customer, I thought Salesforce was one of these big bad wolves that say, you've got to have everything in Salesforce, you've got to buy every module in order to get all the benefits, but then to learn that it's a interoperable open stack that's allowing you to choose your models, and in this case, Bedrock, being able to choose through Bedrock. Look,
financially, for us, it made a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Because it runs on AWS, allows us to retire AWS commit. It's just no-brainer. Why wouldn't you do that? Number one. Number two, you are the absolute experts in the Salesforce ecosystem, and you have tens of thousands of use cases that you're already agentifying.
Right.
Why would we recreate that?
Right.
Why wouldn't we use what you already built and is available on Agentforce Marketplace and on the AWS Marketplace and have it securely governed with what I know is the best security platform on earth,
Fabulous.
Which is AWS.
I'm going to have to slip this guy some money afterwards. Okay, last question as we wrap it up. You've got the audience here, you've got a lot of folks here. Three key takeaways that you give to the audience as it relates to agentic AI.
First of all, build on something that you know is going to be there for the long term. You are going to get inundated by everyone who's specializing in a single use case. But the beauty of agentic AI is that you can adapt to any use case as long as you have the right platform and the global reach. And that's what the AWS and Agentforce capability gives you.
Right.
You can build your own. Start building. No one knows the process that you're doing, the job that you're doing better than you. Build for yourself. Then share it with your employees.
Great.
And look, that's it. And you will see the value. And then, last one, have fun. I literally have fun every day. I had an SI come in the other day saying, I'm going to charge you £2 million to do this. I went and vibe coded it on Salesforce.
Yep.
And I showed it to the SI in half an hour. Right? This world is changing. Start building.
Perfect.
If I can build, so can you.
So have fun. Here's a few ways to have fun. Come visit us. You can build agents at our booth. Come check this out. Learn more about the partnership between Salesforce and AWS if this is part of your stack. learn much more. Contact your account reps if you have a rep. If not, come talk to us. If you're interested, don't know what Salesforce is, happy to talk about that. And it's a pleasure. Thank you, Samir. Love it. I will hopefully see you again on stage, and thank you all for coming.
Thank you, Samir. Thank you so much.